Hey there, folks. Welcome to another edition of Time About the Movies. Today we're flashing back to January 27th, 1989, and we've got 5 movies to look at today. So we're going to start off with the movie that was not the number 1 movie at the box office this weekend. That movie would be Rain Man, but it was the number 1 movie at the box office the next weekend, and that's the comedy Three Fugitives, starring Nick Nolte and Martin Short. So at first glance, you think that, okay, this is a mix between Stakeout and Three Men and a Baby, which were 2 big hits for Disney in 1987 and Touchstone Pictures. But this is actually based off of a French comedy of the same name called Les Fugitives, which starred Gerard Depardieu, and actually the director of that movie, Francis Veber, also directed this movie as well. And it was actually, and like I said, it was somewhat of a hit at the box office. Something else I found that was interesting about this movie is that here in America, it was released by Disney, but internationally, it was released by Warner Brothers. So you have 2 different movies from 2 different studios, competing studios, on this particular film. And as far as the movie itself goes, it's actually pretty funny. I will admit, I went into this with low expectations for it, but I'm not going to lie, there were definitely some funny moments in this particular movie that I really enjoyed. It's got a great cast in this. You see James Earl Jones is in this, Alan Ruck, Bruce McGill is also in this as well. Not a great movie overall, but I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I think it is a very funny movie, very underrated film in my opinion. If you haven't seen Three Fugitives, definitely check it out. So let's go to the next movie, starring Burt Reynolds, and that is Physical Evidence. So a lot of interesting things going on with this particular movie. This is the last film that Michael Crichton, the man who also wrote Jurassic Park and Congo, this was the last movie he directed before his death. This is also originally supposed to be a sequel to The Jagged Edge, and it's actually on the poster, it says from the producer of Jagged Edge. And this is also one of Burt Reynolds' last leading roles in a major Hollywood studio film. He would make some leading roles in other films after this, but back in the 80s, Burt Reynolds was a big box office draw, but by this point, his career had kind of faded out a little bit, but he, in terms of being a leading film actor, he would still find fame with Evening Shade a year later in television, where he'd actually won an Emmy for that. But from the little stuff I've seen from Physical Evidence, it looks like kind of a generic thriller. I mean, you gotta remember, this is back when Columbia Pictures was run by David Putnam, and obviously that tenure was not very strong, as he was pretty much gone after about a year or so, and this was one of the last movies he made when he was still the head of production there at Columbia Pictures. But, yeah, from the little bit I've seen from this movie, it doesn't really wow me all that much, and not surprisingly, the film didn't do that well, and you can kind of see why from the little bit of that trailer I showed you. It's just not an interesting movie to me. It just didn't have enough intrigue or interest to really get me invested into it. It's got a good cast as well: Teresa Russell, Ned Beatty, Ted McGinley, music by Henry Mancini as well, which is really weird for something like this, but just didn't wow me all the way through. Kind of a lackluster film indeed. So that's Physical Evidence. Now on to the next film. You know, the funny thing about this movie is I had heard about it, but I thought for some reason that the parents in this movie were cockroach creatures from a different planet. But actually, it turns out that's from another movie that's kind of similar to this, but this is more of a straight-up horror movie. The movie I'm thinking of is Meet the Applegates, and we're still a couple of years away from talking about that one, so I'll definitely get into that when we get to that. But the trailer for this was very intriguing. Like, I liked the little twist that it made as it starts off as like a generic 50s family type of film, and then as the trailer goes on and you start to see more of the horror aspect coming in here, it looks pretty good. It looked pretty investing. So this is directed by Bob Balaban, and yeah, it's a weird, it's a weird and twisted type of black comedy in a way. It's also very creepy too. Like, Randy Quaid is perfect for this type of role, and Randy Quaid is kind of known for these crazy, can be very crazy at times when it comes to these roles like this. But I like how he looks generally terrifying in this. Mary Beth Hurt is generally terrifying in this. This whole idea is very terrifying indeed. And I like the way that the film just plays around with those ideas. And overall, it's a really enjoyable movie. If you definitely get a chance to see this movie if you can. I believe it's still available on Blu-ray through the Vestron Video Collection, Lionsgate. definitely look for that if you can. And I think you might be surprised just as much as I was. Cohen and Tate. Sounds like the name of a really bad 80s action TV series. Cohen and Tate, coming this fall on CBS. But, no, it's a movie that actually existed. It has Roy Scheider from Jaws, of course. Adam Baldwin's in this movie. And, from the little bit I've seen of it, it's kind of a generic action thriller. I like it kind of has a little bit of Home Alone vibe. If you got this kid here who's got to outsmart these mobsters, these two hitman assassins that are trying to get to this kid. And I don't know, like, part of me did kind of enjoy it. I like the tension sometimes during this, but like I said, I haven't seen the whole thing, but for the most part, the little bit I've seen shows a little bit of promise to it. I like what I see here. I like the casting of Roy Scheider and Adam Baldwin, and I like some of the visuals that they have in here. I like some of the tension that's being built throughout this trailer. Like I said, from the little bit I've seen, it's definitely got a lot of promise to it. I would definitely check it out, maybe. But from the little bit I saw, yeah, I think I will definitely give it a chance at some point. But I'm not going to rush out to see it. If I find it somewhere, like at Half Price Books or The Exchange, I'll definitely check it out. So, let's get to the last movie. So as you can see, Manifesto stars Alfred Molina, Eric Stoltz, and yeah, just by that trailer alone, that doesn't seem like something you would expect from a company like Cannon Films, who was known for doing, like, cheesy, kind of corny 80s action films at the time, stuff like Over the Top, anything Chuck Norris did, stuff like The Delta Force or Runaway Train. But, I mean, from the little bit I've seen of it, it looks kind of intriguing enough, but I've looked at some reviews online, and some of it's not very good. Yeah, just something about the accents that these people are putting on just seems a little too much. I think they're trying to overact a little bit. Like, look, it feels like Cannon's trying to make that Oscar baity type of film with this, and it just doesn't work for me. So, probably won't check this out. Most of these movies by Golden Globus, the producers behind this, were not very good, i.e. Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, that type of stuff. So, there's probably a good reason why this film is not recognized as one of Cannon's best films, and I probably want to really check it out, honestly. So other than that, that's going to wrap it up for this particular episode. Next week we jump into, well, not next week, next time around we jump into February, and some of the movies that we will talk about include yet another film from Cannon Films starring Charles Bronson, Kinjeet for Forbidden Subjects, John Candy movie not a whole lot of people talk about, Who's Harry Crumb, and Tom Selleck in one of his leading roles, Her Alibi. So we got 3 movies to cover next week, so we'll definitely talk about those on the next episode. So thank you guys for watching this one, and hopefully you go check out some of the other episodes that we've done already. And I'll see you guys next time. So until then, take care.